Welcome back to another episode of the Prometheus Podcast. Luke here, and I'm joined with the man himself, Jackson. How you going?
Yeah, not too bad. Going all right?
That's all right, mate. The myth, Harley.
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Going good?
Yeah.
The legend himself.
Going pretty good, man.
Going good, Henry? Going good?
Going good.
Beauty. How's our week's been going? You up to anything much?
It's been a busy week at work. Crunch time, getting into the end of the year, so everyone's trying to get things in before Christmas. Other than that, it's been pretty good in the gym, and that's about it.
That's right.
Yeah, no, much the same with Hendry. Crunch time coming to the end of the year. Just basically got a massive workload given to me. Going to be pretty tight, so a lot of long days, but I think, doable. So getting there and, just grinding out anything else I can. So, not too bad.
How's your balance going?
Yeah, it's all right. Like, got exams coming up. Most uni students right now are in the exam period. So last week was, I guess, it's called SWAT vac, so it's just like the study vacation. So you get like a week off where you kind of focus on, you don't really have classes, but you still just, do your work and stuff at home. And then, everyone's exam timetable is different, but mine's pretty generous. They're quite spaced apart, so
It's good, man.
don't have to cram too hard.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Do you get many, people around you or your friends, do many people just not study during that period? Or should you be studying, or is it more of a vacation period?
Most people use the time to catch up on all the work they didn't do.
Yeah.
So it's like the work they should have been doing in like the 12 weeks beforehand. But people don't watch the lectures, or people don't do the readings that they need to do, and then it gets to this time and it's like, okay, wow. Then dive right in and just catch up. So I tend to stay up to date. I like to believe I stay up to date. I don't know if I actually do, but so that's not really a problem I face, but it is, I guess, a pretty common thing to do, to just use this time to catch up if you need it.
What about yourself, Luke? What have you been up to?
Yeah, you skipped yourself, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, it's similar. I think more similar to you, Hendry, and Jacko. I think the end of the year, it's probably the end of the year in the financial year, especially like being a manager, it's flat out, it cranks up to 24/7, 7 days a week pretty much. Yeah, so been battling with that. Had actually a moment where I probably was putting too many hours in, and I ran myself down pretty hard, and I had to work from home for a day. I was meant to actually have the day off, but had 7 phone calls, I think, by 7 o'clock. So and I decided to get out of bed and plug my computer in and work. But yeah, it definitely went a bit too hard. So I needed that time halfway in the week to just chill out a bit, because
Chill.
chill, which was work from home. But it was good though, and because I woke up with a bit of a swollen throat, headache, and everything. Just that whole immune system pretty much just crashed. It didn't help that mine and Jackson's fridge died halfway in the week, and they kept switching out at the fuse box, so we lost a lot of our food. So I wasn't eating healthy, was doing insane hours, and then all of a sudden that crashed and burned a bit.
It's definitely taking a toll on your body.
Yeah, I'll probably have to go back and watch the Healthy Habits podcast. I think that might help me out a bit. But other than that though, it's going good now. Got a hold on it a bit. I worked Saturday as well yesterday, which was fun. So hoping to just sleep after this podcast, get my rest back in. But
Try to build up that immune system again.
yeah, that's it. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Interesting that you were just talking about Harley, with the uni study and the vacation and everything. So one shout out right now. A week ago or 2 maybe, we did celebrate a pretty big milestone for yourself, Harley.
Yeah,
Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown?
I'll make me talk about myself, mate.
Just about the function probably, and we'll be able to speak about the rest.
Yeah, so it was my 21st the other day, so still a little young boy, but moving on in the world. So just wasn't really one usually to throw birthday parties. Kind of not really that type of person. Like I just felt uncomfortable people celebrating me, because I was like, well, I'm just me. Like, what does it matter? But I took it as an opportunity to kind of treat my friends. I approached it with that lens. It wasn't really something I want everyone in this one building to celebrate me. It's more, I want everyone in this building so I can look out at everyone and be like, thinking, wow, like these are all the people that have impacted me and give back to them in some way.
Yeah.
So, so it was great to have you guys there. Thanks for making the trip down. I ended up doing it in the city, so from down here it's a bit of a journey, but
Yeah, well, Penthouse in Crown is pretty good, isn't it? Pretty good venue though. So it was actually at an art gallery, which was a nice change up. I think I've been to a few 21st that aren't that out there, but
I reckon I've been to majority of the 21st I've been to have been in some dirty shed garage, and it's just like a bunch of just gross men just getting blind drunk, and it's not pretty, man. It's not pretty.
so I think that was a real good setup because it was a bit of a venue, and it gave like a lot of people to pretty much just chat about what they're up to and I guess what they're doing with their life as well. So you got some great mates, met some interesting people. It's good to finally meet people from either high school or university. So I reckon that was a real good turnout.
Yeah, it was pretty good how you had everyone from like every point in your life. Do you know what I mean? And then we all came into one building and we all just like got to know each other and just interact. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a special moment for me, just seeing. I've been to a lot of schools. I've been to 5 different schools in total. And then university and between 3 different workplaces. I've had, I guess, the privilege of knowing a lot of people, and just by nature of coming into contact with a lot of people, it gives you, I guess, the privilege to pick and choose who your company is. And not everyone has that privilege, but I was lucky to have that. So throughout the journey, I guess, it's selecting those individuals who you do feel are adding value and being able to hold on to them, and then accumulating those over time. So although we, I guess, split ways, a decade ago, so it's been 10 years since we were all kind of, in that year 7 together. And then since then, all the people you met, like you guys were the oldest friends I had there, and then everyone else you met was just everyone I met after we split off and like went on our own journeys. So that was kind of, I guess, the representation of the path I've been on.
Yeah.
And then I guess interacting with those people, it's a lot just interacting with different little bits of me. So.
Yeah, well that's it. You pretty much just had like 5 worlds and they all just like collided in that one room.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And I was actually going to just touch on that. It was really good to see like there was so much diversity in that room. Like, I mean, you had, say, people like us, right? We didn't go to private schools. I think, Henry went to university for a little while, but then basically everyone else there went to university. It was good to see how like different personalities from different kind of backgrounds, like upbringings, all that kind of stuff, how they all worked. And it was really good to see how they could interact with each other as well. Like, just like speaking for myself is, I got to this art gallery and I'm seeing like all these people dressed up all like fancy, like, coming from well-known high schools, well-known universities, and I'm sitting here like a little country boy, like, never went to university, went to like some country like public high school, and like it was really good to see that, from the depiction I got from private school people being in a public school, like everyone thought that everyone was such like a snob, everyone was so up themselves, like looked down at you all the time. But being there and even having conversations with them and letting them know I went to a public school, like they weren't looking down at you. Everyone was really good, and it was actually like a big eye-opener for me, because really the only person I ever knew that went to a private school was yourself. So, and you never snobbed me off or anything, but not having a dig at you, but it was just really good to see that like the depiction that everyone kind of just assumes of everyone else is totally different to what it actually is.
Yeah, beautiful. I think something that just caught my attention from both of you just talking just then, and it was touching on as well what you just spoke about, and you also did talk about that during your bit of a speech, kind of to the end of that. I didn't get a jump on it when you were giving your speech. I desperately needed to go to the toilet at that time. But so I will touch on some interesting points that caught my attention when you were talking and when you're just talking right now as well. So with the whole world's colliding and you being able to pick your company a bit. So for me especially, I've known you for, and we've been mates for about, 13, 14 probably years now? 14 years. Yeah, so, and that's insane. And you end up learning a lot about someone in 14 years. And you obviously learn a lot about them and you form a lot of, memories with them. And I think traditionally why a lot of people, especially our age, don't actually hold on to friends for that long is because exactly how you're talking about, people choose different pathways. Now, especially for me and you, and it's even touching on what you were talking about. So we kind of, different ends of the spectrum, we just grew up in different worlds. But we've been friends for 14 years and it's been 14 years strong as well. And the crazy part is, like you were saying, sometimes we haven't seen each other in a couple of years and you haven't seen a lot of people in a few years. So I think a real big part, all my friends don't actually stick together is they just don't have that common goal. So you walk your different pathways and that's fine. You don't all have to walk in one straight line together. Like what we covered in one of our podcasts, you went off and you went to a different school, and then I stayed in that same school and finished it. You then chose university and I chose work. They were just like two completely different worlds. But I think one thing that kept, especially our friendship, strong was the fact that although we walked different paths, you and I both knew that we had a similar destination in the end. So I think that was like a real, like realistically speaking, like it's all like, all friends forever, feelings and all that. Like it's all great and all that, but like logically, taking it from just a logical perspective, like we had a similar destination in mind, and we've just always kind of had that when we were younger. So I think that really grounded our friendship in the sense that it kept it together. Yeah. Like that's definitely how I perceive that. So as I said, many memories from 14 years of friendship, from before, during and after our primary school, just playing basketball. Good old Brentwood, or just even skating around Berwick when we were younger. Like I got tons and tons of memories with us, and I think that's something that I see, looking at it from that logical background, is end goal being the same. It's obviously what kept us together after all those years, especially not seeing each other. But one thing that I see out of all those years, definitely probably the fondest memory, was me and Ali, obviously in Berwick, lived around the corner from each other. Yeah. So best part was we always used to go on long and deep philosophical walks where we'd just be spitting bars about all the world's issues, pretty much covering how brainwashed some individuals are, how pretty much chained down society is, and how broken the world is sometimes. So I mean, for being 12 years old, talking about those topics, pretty deep.
That is next level.
Pretty woke, just chatting about what's up with the social scene. But we were covering all those topics at such a young age, and that was definitely like my fondest memories that I do have with you. Yeah. And it's definitely a credit to yourself. You have such strong personality traits. I think definitely the most commendable ones about you is your integrity, and a big one is your self-awareness as well. And I'll just say awareness in general, both internal and external. Your compassion, your commitment, and all those crazy traits that nowadays society bleeds dry of individuals. It's people like that who go out there and they bring clarity to people who need it. It's people with those traits who go out there and unshackle what is actually tied down. And it's people like yourself, Ali, who go out there and truly fix a world that is broken.
You're gonna make me cry, man.
So I think we'll kiss and hug up after the camera. But that's where, like I said, people like yourself, they're such commendable traits, and they're definitely what I see as my fondest memories with you. And like I said, it's a credit to yourself with where you are right now, what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve, and really what we're all trying to achieve here. I'm sure we can all relate with topics like that, which I said we'll cover in on those walks. And I'm sure we've covered all the same topics with each other as well. But I think that was definitely some thoughts I was having when you were giving your speech. So I guess that would be my little shout out. But I will give a quick toast on behalf of the Step Potential crew. So definitely we can raise our little imaginary champagne glasses to our late.
Get bottle up our late. Drink from the bottle, mate.
But 100%, definitely best words of advice that I could give you with how you're going and the whole journey of growth that you have been on ever since I knew you from year 2 is the fact that, for me personally, I have no doubt that you'll be a great man someday, but definitely.
I'm a shit bloke right now.
That's it. No, but great as in like probably seen like in everyone else's eyes as like a truly great man.
Yeah.
But because I see it as a bit differently. So I have no doubt that you will be a great man someday, but definitely never forget to be a good one. So that would be my toast to you. Happy birthday, brother.
Oh, thank you very much.
Happy birthday, mate. Well,
birthday,
cheers. For you on the
Ollie.
week anyway.
Cheers, guys.
No worries. So kicking back into business.
I was actually, just going to touch on that from your very heartfelt speech. What you were saying, before when you guys were having your discussions early days about that kind of, that you were saying like that brainwash society kind of topic, and then the way that you were saying that, people like, say, Ali, who, enlighten people about those issues in society. I think the biggest one that I come across, especially like at work, even just, in everyday life, is entitlement. I think entitlement is like a massive issue. Like, so many people like think that they just deserve everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a pay rise, if it's like in their job, if it's, for a team selection at like a sport, people just think they are like so entitled. They just deserve everything without actually working for it. And I think like that's like the major issue. It's because, the world really doesn't owe you shit, right? And like people just like, they can't, I don't know if it's just like in today's age or if it's been, going for before we were born or whatever, but I get this feeling where like some people just, they don't work hard for anything, think they deserve everything, think the world owes them, millions of dollars, but they're just not willing to put in that effort. And I think that kind of stigma around, people that is like the thing we're trying to change here. Like, it's, I think getting people to understand that, life isn't easy. Being successful isn't easy. Obviously, you've heard it many times, like if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So like, when you think about it, there's like a good like 4% of Australia you would like classify as like financially like successful. Like if you were maybe saying having, being a millionaire, right? Would be financially successful. Only 4% of Australia fit into that category. So it's like, when you think about it, it's not easy, and the hard work does need to be put in. But when you get people that are walking around thinking that everyone owes them something, and they don't owe anyone anything else, it's like that entitlement, I think, is basically what's killing like our society. Like I'm not going to call it millennials, but like young people today. I think that, being brought up thinking that everyone owes them something is probably the biggest issue that I'm seeing like in society at the moment. So
Yeah, like thinking probably, like definitely entitlement, and also just thinking if you follow some certain steps, it's going to fall to your plate. Like, and that's just branching off that idea as well. So the whole let's walk down the pathway, or if I put these set hours in, then I'm going to be successful. Unfortunately, and I think you mentioned it once, Eileen, it might have been on camera or off camera, but there's no, how did you put it? There's no, I think, justice in society itself, or there's no like innate actual.
Oh, the just world fallacy. There's no innate, I guess, morality to the universe in terms of there's no reason why good things need to happen to good people, or bad things happen to bad people. Like, there's no correlation there. It's just it's a misheld belief to believe that just by being you, the world will shine light and not put suffering or misfortune into your world.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could do everything right. I could study as hard as I could. I could get the highest ATAR that I ever could get. That doesn't mean that your life is going to be successful. Or if you put all the hard work in, that doesn't mean your business is going to launch off. Like, we're all just on this, blue planet spinning around. Stuff happens just, out of nowhere for whatever reason. That's just this big, concept of life itself. And it's just more of the fact that what you're saying, entitlement is something that you got to steer away from, because no one's entitled to anything, no matter how hard you work. Like, you might deserve it, but that doesn't mean it's always going to work out the way that you thought originally.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely tying into like entitlement. I think, everyone gets too comfortable these days, and then like comfortability breeds weakness, like straight up. And the like in terms of entitlement and comfortability, it's like everyone just does what they need to do, just the standard stuff that they need to do. They don't want to put in the extra work, and then they think just by doing the standard stuff, they're just gonna, magically things are gonna walk into their life. Yeah. But it's definitely not like that. You definitely, to earn what you want, you have to put in that work. You have to put in that hard yard. You have to like put in them hours. And yeah, like that's like entitlement and comfortability is like what I reckon is kind of like playing a big part in how society is currently. Well, I feel like it has always worked like that. Everyone searches for that comfortability in life.
Yeah. I think like in today's age, a little bit more so, because I think probably one of the biggest issues with that, like that kind of is the root of this, entitlement, comfortability as well, is just the image of people on social media. I think it's like, because obviously, everyone talks about these issues with social media. People like posting, their best lives, not posting their struggles, just the happy parts of these lives. And it's, everyone sees this, they compare themselves to these people, and by doing what they're doing now, that, as you said, Hendry, that bare minimum, that's, just that stock standard level of what they're doing, and they're seeing people and they're comparing themselves to them, and it's, well, I want to be like that, but I'm not going to do anything else of what I'm doing now to get there. Yeah, for sure. And I think the minute people start comparing other people to themselves when they live completely different lives, that's the start of like a collapse. That's where you start to crumble, I think. So I think, with, social media, putting all of these almost false, like realities of life out there, it's like it's killing people, because everyone wants to be like them, but they're not willing to put in the effort where that entitlement comes from as well. So,
yeah. I think I heard it on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Joe Rogan podcast, but I think this was with this interview with Elon Musk, and then Elon Musk just, quite stoically said, comparison is the thief of joy. Okay. So I think that resonates quite a lot with what I guess we're all getting on, is it's both these expectations that both fuel this mindset of feeling entitled, because there's an expectation there, right? Yeah. That is what it means to be entitled. There's an expectation for what your life should be by virtue of you just existing, correct? And then same with the way people approach social media. It's people compare, and by having these comparisons, they again develop expectations. They expect that, okay, well, if Sandra's living it up in Bali and I'm here working my 9-to-5 retail job, then there's a deficit there. There's a gap that needs to be bridged somehow. How do I get there? And then if she goes on a holiday, and then she also takes those photos and puts those up, and then everyone just starts doing this. No one's seeing the 9-to-5 struggle. They're all just seeing the movie star lifestyle, or the more appealing parts of the lifestyle, and that just creates more expectation. And then we end up living in these echo chambers of our friends and these projected images, right? And by doing that, it just stacks all these expectations on top of each other. And if we are running with that phrase, that expectation is the thief of joy, then, well, what is joy then? Well, then joy is removing the expectations and just being mindful about your own life and being mindful about your position in it, and just having that self-awareness, that intelligence of knowing that, this is where you are in life, this is where other people are. And just because there appears to be some sort of gap there, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to bridge it or try to be like someone else. You have to be present in your own life and try to add value to yourself and those around you as best you can, without getting caught up in the narrative that other people are projecting.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably that root of all these things we've been talking about now. I think that comparing yourself to others when you live completely different lives, live in completely different countries even, you know, I think that is probably, that's where you start. I think that if you're wanting to improve, you're wanting to do better, succeed or whatever, I think that's where you start. You stop comparing yourself to other people. You don't want to live like someone. You do what you want to do. You reach your goals, and that's where you start.
And that's not to say that you can't take inspiration from other people's lives or look up to people. That's not at all. You can have, I guess, hopes and desires, but I think there's a difference between having a vision and having this self-imposed regret of, you know, not being something more than what you are.
Yeah.
When if you have that vision, if you have that hope or drive for the future, then, you know, it's a lot of what we're trying to do here. It's that potential, it's that envision, that execution, and then only after that whole process does the success follow. So it's about, you know, just when you're envisioning your life, it's okay to do that. You don't have to, you know, just not look up to anyone and not see those differences. You can look up to someone, you know, like Elon Musk or someone like Bill Gates or, you know, whoever it is, or even just a friend of yours who does appear to live quite a lavish lifestyle. You can aspire towards being greater and be inspired by them, but you shouldn't want to be them. You should want to be yourself, but the best version of yourself. And then that comes back down to, well, envisioning correctly, having the right type of vision, and then executing that in your own life rather than chasing someone else's.
Yeah, I think I was just on that, like with like kind of having like an idol or like a, how do you put it? Sorry.
Just like an inspiration.
Yeah. So like an inspiration or like someone that you aspire to be, right? I'm struggling to remember his name, but there's an actor. Is the guy on Wolf of Wall Street?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
No.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. So a couple of but a couple of years back, I think he won an Oscar.
Yeah.
And his Oscar award, his acceptance speech, and he said his idol that like he always looks up to is him in 10 years.
Yeah.
So like whether, you know, he's ahead of his game, whether he's below his game, whatever, his idol that he looks up to is himself in 10 years, and that just pushes himself to be the best he can, because he wants to, like, where he wants to be in 10 years, he pushes for that. He uses that as an inspiration. So I think, like, as you said, like, you can have like an external, like individual or group or whatever it is, be your inspiration, but I'm really strongly with like being your own inspiration, like having yourself, like having you motivate yourself. I think that's like a massive key of doing well and being what you want to be. I think that's like massive impact.
That's pretty good. Yeah, like I agree with what you said, and I agree with what Ali has said as well. It's draw inspiration from those who you like kind of look up to, and create your own vision of yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
The moment you pull things from both ends, you know, and you don't have the expectation for yourself, you know, you have expectation for yourself to be successful, but you stop comparing yourself, is what I mean. You know, the possibilities are endless. You know, you draw inspiration from those who have done it. You draw inspiration from where you want to be in 10 years or 5 years, and you execute from there. And, you know, if you think that you can do anything in life, then you can. You know, the moment the moment you actually withdrawn from comparing yourself is the moment you actually succeed, is like what you said before.
Yeah.
Because then you know, you're not getting down from saying, oh look, this person's doing this thing and I'm not doing that. It's like, well, I'm doing this. I've actually gotten like this new job, or I've gotten this new pay rise. I'm actually doing pretty well for myself. And you know, when you just look up to yourself, I feel like you can do anything in life.
100%. And I think I got a bunch of where's the fire extinguisher in this building? We need it. But there's a few things. I'll start from the start, and hopefully I can remember it all. Talking about social media and having those expectations, like that is so detrimental to young people today. Like, it is insane. If you were to go back 20, 30 years ago, you'll never hear stories of high school kids taking their own life. Like, it has only existed in this society now where people have that expectation of that's the life they need to live, and they have that pressure to build that perfect Instagram page or that Facebook page, or have all the followers, or have all the Snapchat likes, or you don't get likes on Snapchat. shows how much I've only just gotten back on social media. Yeah, so having that pressure to meet those likes on Instagram, that's a bit better. To have all those followers, and it just honestly, it eats the soul out of young people today. And I was actually having this conversation I was dropping a work colleague off from home the other day, and she has a young daughter, and we were just talking about the world today and I guess society, and I was giving her my opinion on it. And I was covering these topics on how it's a different time nowadays. Like 10 years, from 10 years ago to today, technology has jumped exponentially. Like, it's just been insane. And social media, the whole platform of social media, like and you and I were actually talking about it, Henry, which I'll get to, but it's changed that dramatically. We live in a world where that's taking people's lives, and we also live in a world where you can tap into that resource and build careers off it. Like, I think personally, we've grown up in a time where, like, you have so much resource at your disposal, especially with the internet and everything. But it's that love-hate relationship, that life or destruction. It depends on how you use the tool, pretty much. But big one from that expectation, and having expectations of your friends or something, like how you put it, Jackson. No one ever posts the struggles. So everyone will put the good times in. Everyone will post how great they are, or how many parties they're going to, and everything like that. And if you're sitting there and you truly have struggles at home, you're going to be looking at that. And if you draw on the expectation, or you have that expectation already set, you're going to look at that and go, like what you have said, why is my life like that? And you're going to reevaluate it with yourself, and that's just going to take you down that rabbit hole and make you more depressed. It's going to just eat away at your soul. And as I said, you go back 10, 20 years ago, there was no news stories with young kids at primary school even taking their life. And I think that's a massive issue with today's structure, is that social media making people have expectations that are fake at the end of the day. It's just the highlights. Yeah. It's not the ups and the downs.
Well, I was actually funnily enough, on social media, Gary Vee, he put it basically perfectly. I think it was a post actually in the last couple of weeks, and he said it's insane how people put other people's opinions above themselves. Like, it's absolutely insane. And I think that along with those expectations that you're talking about, and obviously you're talking about suicide for young people, it's with the inability to live up to those expectations, not knowing what the background is of those expectations, it absolutely demoralizes people. And I think that's where that that higher rate of depression, of anxiety, of suicide rates of young teenagers, it's absolutely killing it. Like, that is honestly, from my point of view, that is the main cause of it.
That you put it real well.
Yeah, you put it
demoralize it, and that's it. Like, you set yourself to an expectation you will never get.
Yeah.
And the only way you can achieve and succeed is when you look inside, and you're not reaching out trying to grab things in that external world. Because at the end of the day, you need to live with yourself, and you can't live that life through someone else.
Yeah, and it's important that you say you reach inside, because Facebook's not going anywhere, Instagram's not going anywhere. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations that sort of thrive off this. This is their business model. Obviously that's not literal, but that's not what they're in the business of. But they don't mind. I don't think they mind about that being the byproduct. If for the vast majority of people, they can just ensnare you and capture your attention. And obviously, it is a bit of an exaggeration to say that that's what they're in the business of. But the point being is that they're not going anywhere. And you have to look inside then. If you can't regulate your world, if you can't regulate your environment, you have to learn then to regulate yourself. So if you can't, you can I guess make these things go away by just deleting them and just not engaging with them. But even if you do want to have that, and there definitely is upsides to social media. Completely, there are huge benefits. You know, I wouldn't have even met my girlfriend had we not had, you know, social media to be like a link to start us talking to each other. So there's definitely huge amounts of joy and happiness that can be gained from these tools. But it's, again, there is a lightness and a darkness to most things. And if you can't control your environment, if you can't control these tools around you, and you can't control, I guess, how much of a destructive or positive influence they have, well, then that's the point where you step back a bit and you begin to look internally and you go, okay, well, if I can't change my environment, how can I change myself? And then best, I guess, weaponize myself is a way to put it, or just like sharpen your own spear in terms of refining yourself to be someone who can live in this world, or someone who can live being surrounded by, I guess, expectations. But as you're saying, Jackson, putting your own beliefs, or putting your own, I guess, self-affirmation above any negative talk that might be coming from around you.
I think Luke and I were talking about this like last week. You know, like with the whole day and age of like internet, it's a good thing, but it's also it can also be a bad thing these days. It's opened up so many outlets for people, and like, you know, like you can now chat to your family overseas. You can, you know, it's closed that like connection bridge, but it's also created a whole dark side to it, like what we've been talking about right now, how it creates false realities, and how it like it can just play on people's minds so much. And like, just speaking on like my Instagram page, I do photography as well, and I also, you know, like some days I'll have like shit days, but like I'll post something motivational on my caption, or I'll actually, you know, be like, you know, I'll speak about a day and I'll be like, well, this is how I can be different. And it's like, we can use these outlets for good reasons, but a lot of the times, a lot of the times right now, people just want to show the highlights of their life. And it's crazy to think that everyone thinks that that is true. Like, you could have 1 million followers on Instagram or something, post like you have like a Ferrari or Lamborghini or something. But that's just online. But then, like, when they shut off from that, they could just be living in just like standard house, still living with their parents, or, you know, it's all these like false realities, and it's like taking a toll on, you know, expectations, but it's also taking a toll on how we operate as a society, I reckon. And also growing up in this day and age, I feel like it was a different, like the way our parents brought us up was different to how their parents brought us up. And that's, I feel like the way the upbringing has become, not saying it's bad, not saying it's good, it's also created a false reality from that as well.
I think that's massive, Andrew. So the false reality of it all, and in a sense, like what you're saying with business plans like Facebook, Instagram, that's the whole idea of how we utilize that tool. Because as we've talked about, we're just showing the highlights. No one wants to post a picture and talk about their struggle. So that whole false reality, and you mentioned it perfectly with upbringing. So my biggest fear going in with, well, what is a generation coming in after us, where if they're just brought up with this false reality on, well, this is the internet, this is the world, this is social network, this is how people's lives have to be led, like, yeah, insane. And I even notice it with people younger than us, and we're only young, we're only 20, 21, so you look at it in babies and kids, they're just on iPads, they're on social network, it's insane. So that false reality, I think it's definitely shaping us as individuals, and as well as you put it, Hendry, as a society. And you can just see it, like every single thing you can see. You can just watch the news, you can watch every single TV show, every single thing is just making this entire false reality around us. We're just pretty much in a matrix at the moment. Like, it's to that point where you need to have all these tools. And you said it earlier, you can just switch it off. Like, you don't have to be looking through that window and seeing life that way. But the other side to the coin of that is, especially with young people, well, if you switch it off, it's pretty difficult to be the black sheep or the wolf in the sheep's pen. So it gets to that point where kids could shut it off, but then everyone's at school talking about that party they saw on Facebook or something like that, and then they're isolated and they don't feel comfortable, and that obviously grabs them in and it helps them get trapped into that false reality because society itself is structured around this entire platform nowadays.
Yeah, I think the solution for like that. Not saying this is like one set solution. Like this is like a massive society like issue, but like I would think that the most obvious solution would be either to switch off, as we've been talking about, or just stop comparing ourselves like to everyone else. Like if you see someone doing well, you just go, yeah, good on them. Yeah, good on them. They're doing what they're doing, but I'm doing what I'm doing. Like that. I guess that. I'm trying to think of the word.
Just being mindful of your own.
Yeah. Being mindful of what you're doing and how that is benefiting you, instead of what you could be doing that someone else is doing and their ideas that they've come up with. Not everyone's going to have the same ideas. Not everyone's going to live the same life. And I think that in the end is what makes us individuals. It's what makes us unique. The things that we do differently in our day-to-day lives, and that's the key of getting rid of this issue of suicide rates, of depression, of anxiety in young people. And I think it's just something that everyone needs to understand, at least, and to sit there and think, I'm my own person, I'm doing what I'm doing, this is my journey, not worry about what other people are doing. And I think that's probably the easiest solution, I would think.
Like just swinging away from social media, I feel like there's also a false reality in how we operate right now.
Yep.
I don't know, what's your guys' opinion? I feel like that the way we were brought up is do this, do that, and do that. I don't know how like you guys were brought up, but like the way I was brought up was like, study hard and then get a good job, and that's it. Like I feel like that's like the false reality of it. And like once you study hard and you get a job, like that's your life. I feel like that's.
I think what correct me if I'm wrong, but like what you're bringing up is what your parents. So like say your parents have got like a 9-to-5 job. They're sustaining their household, their family, whatnot. Then from then you get brought up being taught, study hard, get a 9-to-5 job, and you'll be able to do this and live how we've been living. But that expectation is, or maybe they're not going to be up to the standard of owning their own business or getting into successful opportunities because they've been brought up in a household that's been working 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah, but it's also like I feel like it once you do all of that, it's like that's it, and then that's the limit of where you're going.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Yeah, and there's so much more to it, and like I feel that by bringing us up like this way in this generation of like social media and all that, it feels like, all right, well, once I've achieved all of this that my parents have told me to do, and then I log into social media and I'm like, wait, they're traveling the world, I'm doing this 9-to-5, and then I feel like that's kind of playing a part in as well. Like it all links up to one another, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, on that, like the breakdown of it, so where did that stem from? It's the fact that, well, if your parents have told you that that's the lifestyle, that's the pathway that society teaches you. Now, if we go back a couple of generations, that may have been the lifestyle and may have been the pathway, but the world changes and the world is so much different back from then to now. So maybe back in the day you could study, like go to school, like the pathway was go to school, go to university, you have your family, have your job, and then that's it. Like it's that structure that society has put everyone in boxes, so to speak, where it goes, well, at the end of the day, the human race is just this working machine, and this is where they all go to the slaughterhouse, so to speak. It goes, all right, well, you've grown up and you're told by society you're all cut into squares. There's no rectangles or triangles or anything. It's just follow this pathway because this is how you can sustain your life. There is that difference between though surviving and actually living and thriving. So I think part of it is, well, the world changes every single day. So your parents may have brought you up that way, and that may have worked in their day and age, but does it work now? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. As we all know, so many things change. Inflation, everything from house values to society itself to jobs actually being available. It's so hard nowadays to get a job in the field that you've actually studied for. At least it's a lot more difficult now than it was back then.
Yeah.
But what is the alternative? We live in the world right now where you can grow a social media platform where you can get 50K per photo that you post on Instagram. Like there's businesses that can be created through social network, and that's like what we're saying with the light side and the dark side of it all. But that wasn't available back then.
Yeah.
So the false reality is, well, when you've been brought up your whole life, Henry, you've been told that that's the path you need to walk because that's the way the world works. But as I just said, the world changes though.
Yep,
so that reality becomes a bit different. But if you don't look internal and you're just projecting out all the time, then you're just forever carrying that false reality with you, and you can't actually see that there's a million other avenues right at your disposal that you can actually walk down.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that plays a big
And I think on that as well, like you were saying, the world changes all the time. We've developed so much in the past, like say 5-10 years, right? There's that much like opportunity in the world. Like we live in a world where there is so much opportunity, but we have a lack of opportunists. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that you can do out there, but not everyone's willing to go and do it. They're willing to sit back on this train of this single path of do this, and you'll as Lou said, you'll be able to sustain your life. No one's willing to step out of the box, out of their comfort zone, and go, you know what, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, and basically the way it looks now is it's just a one-way street to the end of your life, basically. So
and that's so important because there is a crazy amount of opportunities out there. Like we don't live, and you and I were talking about Henry, like we live in the best time right now.
Probably.
Like no matter what all the chaos is going on, no matter what I guess the news talks about and everything going on at the world, like I personally believe we live in the best time ever.
Oh, even just objectively, like you just look at the data, then if in terms of child like death rates and birth, like children dying at birth, level of violence, that more people. Sugar is killing more people than starvation is, and that's just a fact. More people are dying from obesity than they are from starvation for, perhaps one of the first times in the world that this is happening.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So spot on. The data is there, 100%, like you put it. So the opportunity is endless, like you said, and you can build businesses through 1,000 different avenues right now, and that never used to be accessible to everyone. Like it used to be a very small, like that 1% type mentality, but you can grab it if you want it. So I think that's definitely worth calling out. That I completely agree in the sense that there's that light and the dark that you can juggle, and maybe you won't win the job in the field that you're after. And you might not. Of course, if you want to do that, you're gonna have to work for it, and you're not gonna have to be entitled. But at the end of the day, like you don't have to go down that one-way street. Like,
for
the
sure.
pathways are insane.
I think some people are so surprised as well. Like you get so say for example, the people that are following this pathway, and they meet someone that hasn't followed that pathway, and they've gone on a different track, and they are being successful. They are earning a good income, and they hear about it, and they are so surprised. Like, oh my God, you've got this job, but you didn't go to university. How did you do it? And everyone is like, it's gobsmacking for everyone because they're on this one-way street. They've got tunnel vision. They're just going, yep, this is what I've got to do to survive. This is what I've got to do. And it's just like, it's almost, they have no idea of the amount of resource that they can access outside of what they're doing. It's like massive.
And I'll just touch on it. So even say that. So even just using that example. So maybe not following the traditional society path, but even like, say you do have a nice job or something like that, and say you didn't go to university. Now, we live in a world where you can do so many night schools as well. The TAFE is so much more available as well, and different university courses or online courses.
Well, I think TAFE courses now, I think starting next year, like some of them are actually like free.
Yeah, so that much more opportunity to grab. So even if you don't follow your traditional path where you go to university straight after school, you could finish school, go on a gap year, travel the world, come back. Maybe if you don't get in the field that you wanted to get, or don't get in the university you wanted to get, you could get a job. Then you could study night school and get a project management course under your belt to then launch yourself into your career. Like there's just so many more pathways, and that's what obviously we're all talking about, but we didn't have all of that 10 years ago. Like you couldn't have a job and juggle studying at the same time. It used to just be, going back to maybe how your parents brought up, it was you needed to go to university because that was that main pathway. But you can do university while you're still working, and then you can do university at night. You can still go to university and reach a higher education, because I personally believe you need to, in any field, if you're wanting to get a career, you need to reach out higher education.
Definitely.
TAFE university, like you have to do it to go to that like next level.
Knowledge is power.
But it's more of the fact that you don't just have to do it the traditional way anymore. You can do it 1,000 different ways. It can be online. Like you can do so many different avenues to gain that extra knowledge. And I think that's still how you put it. A lot of people still don't just recognize that, or they can't recognize that. And maybe it's because of how their parents brought up, because back then they didn't have accessible different pathways to reach that same end goal.
And by all means, like university, like going to university and doing that can lead you to great things. Like not having a go at people who go to university. I mean, they've got one sitting right in front of us. But like, I think university can bring you opportunity, hands down.
Oh, for sure.
And it has for many years. But I think in today's age, there are many ways other than that where I think not as many people utilize as what they could.
Being the university student here, I can't speak on it. It's definitely some of the best experiences of my life have been, going to university. Like I've so many of my friends that I have now that I value so much, I met at university, and so much of who I am today, university gave me that room and I guess the platform to explore my own, identity and explore who I wanted to be and explore different ideas and concepts that I found inspiring. But then it isn't a lie to say that there is a problem still within that system, because even being, I'd consider myself pretty open-minded, and you go to university and you interact with other students who perhaps aren't so open-minded, and I speak to them the same way I speak to you guys, in terms of saying, like, yes, there are 100 different opportunities, thousands of different opportunities, and this isn't the only way things have to be. But then you do see students at university who seem completely out of place, as if they shouldn't even be there. And for those individuals, you can tell that they've become victim to, the pressures either of their parents or of society, or just not even knowing, not even being aware that there are other ways to do things. So you can take that time off, you can explore other avenues. And I think I said something quite similar on our very first podcast, where I mentioned that, well, there is that kind of pressure cooker time period towards the end of high school where you graduate your year 12, you do your VCE, whatever it happens to be, and then there's no next step. There's always been a next step. Your whole life, there's always been something there that was yet to be done, and it was all very clear. And then you do have these, two options. It's, well, you try to do something else, which is very muddy and very unclear, and it's very obscure what that might be. Or you can extend that staircase, you can extend that ladder, and then suddenly university becomes quite appealing, because then it is, oh, okay, well, I finished year 12, I've done, 13 years of schooling, and then, oh, okay, well, the ladder keeps going, so let's just keep doing that. So then you do your first year uni, and then you do your second year, and then you do your third year. And honestly, after that, people still get addicted to that comfort. So then they go, okay, well, I finished my bachelor's degree, or then there's this murky world out there, or there's graduate study. Okay, I'll do a master's degree, and then do that. And then after that, it's like, oh, well, I'm still pretty worried about the world, but this is still quite familiar. So then they do something even further. They do a PhD, and I've been talking to a lot of people at university about this, and it is quite a common occurrence where, and of course, there's nothing wrong with achieving such a high level of further education. Mm-hmm. Of course, some people just find that as their passion. They want to pursue it to the complete nth degree. But for a lot of people, it's just staying to what's comfortable, staying to what's known. And this, I guess, loops all the way back to where we started this conversation, is that idea of comfort, that idea of, how do I, operate in a space where I am uncomfortable, where that might, lead me to grow, but might actually, cause some sort of doubt or anxiety. And if you can, I guess, come to terms with that, and if you're willing to, I guess, how we mentioned, regulate your own, I guess, thought processes as opposed to trying to regulate the world, because the world is always going to be scary. It's always going to be a bit unknown, a bit, anxiety inducing. But if you can, again, like weaponize yourself, sharpen your own spear, come to a place in your own, I guess, mind where you can be comfortable with being discomfort, being comfortable with discomfort, then that allows you to propel yourself forward into these spaces where there is more opportunity, there is more gold to be found.
Yeah, for sure. Like, just speaking on that, like, I went to uni for like a year, and you were mentioning the comfort level. I definitely, like, that year that I was at uni, at the start, I was like super motivated. I was like, yeah, let's do this. I'll like finish my degree, get a job, and then I'll move further from there. But as the weeks went by, I found that I got, like, uni just became, like a comfort. I just got too lazy. I started skipping lectures, just did the bare minimum to hand in my work, and it got to like mid semester, and I'm like, oh shit, like, when I look back, I haven't really done much. And then touching on that that uncomfortability, like, I was like, oh no, I can't jump into that yet. I'll keep studying. And it got to the end of the year, and I was like, it was like, I think I was speaking with a mate of mine, like, we just went to go grab some lunch, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna drop uni. And I was like, I'm gonna drop uni, I can go back to it eventually. I'm just gonna jump out and see where it takes me. That like evening, I started job hunting, started looking for jobs. Eventually I got one. It's probably like, I'm still in it, but it was like the bare minimum pay back then. And I've never had a job before. Like, I've had a job before him, but I've never had a full-time job. But I was like kind of scared to jump into it. But I just had to bring myself to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna just leave uni. I like probably not really wasted a year of my life, but I can always come back to it. And I just went for it. And I feel like that leap is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is like, it's actually kind of scary to kind of be like, well, I'm jumping into the unknown. I'm jumping into, I don't know where it's going to take me, but screw it, I'll take it. Like, people just have to just go for it. Like, that, as simple as it is, you just got to go for it and see where it takes you, There's so many different avenues these days. You can go to work, you can further education, you can start your own business if you really wanted to. You can travel the world and make money off that. There's so many different ways these days. But like, if you're always comfortable, and this links back to what we're always saying, if you're always comfortable, you're never gonna grow. You're just living. I mean, you're just existing. You're not living.
And being young's the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, when else is there such little risk involved? And again, you mentioned Gary Vee. Gary Vee is a big proponent of this thought process. It's just, you're young, you're out of high school, you're in your early to mid 20s. It's very hard to irreparably mess your life up at this age. Yeah. There's almost always a way to circle back around, and especially if you are, the majority of people are quite fortunate that they do have some sort of stable family situation where they have something to lean on. So if everything was to just fall through completely and everything collapses, most people still have somebody who can support them through that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, obviously it's very idealistic to talk in the way that we are. And as you get older and older, if you have kids of your own, if you have a mortgage to pay, if you have bills to pay, if you have a car loan to pay off, if you have all these things going on, then it is a lot harder to just break free from all of that and do something completely different. You have to really ease your way out of that. But when you're young, you can do crazy stuff. You can just completely go bombastic and just do something completely out of left field, almost without consequence. And it's the only time in your life where you're going to have that. Whereas, and you're saying this, university is always there for you.
Yeah.
You can, and you see mature age students at uni. You see people in their 30s and 40s come back and do a bachelor's degree. And you're like, well, good on you. You know, you've lived your life, and you're at a point now where you feel like this is right for you. So good on you, power to you. But then you have all these young people who are bursting with energy, bursting with creative thought, and then you just see them year by year. That's just shaving away as they begin to accept, I guess, what their lives are turning into.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were to, I guess, take that time and really become catalyzed with that energy, just like let it overcome you and do something different, try to do something, try to start a business, try to do some traveling, try to do something, you know, just completely unrelated to, I guess, the conventional path, you'll be quite surprised what, you know, bits of gold are out there to actually be found. And that's when, that is the privilege of time. And if you ask, you know, an 80-year-old man who's on his, you know, heading towards death, would he rather have his many billions of dollars that he might have accumulated, or would he rather trade that all to be 20 years old again? And 10 times out of 10, that 80-year-old man would give away all his wealth if it meant he could be 20 years old again, because time is always going to be more valuable than money. And if you have that time, use it, because it's one of those things you can't get back.
And yeah, just to speak on that, it's like the things that are easy now, if you don't do it now, it's going to become the hardest thing to do later on. And you know how you were saying you have family, you have mortgages, and like it is the greatest time to do things right now, because you can all in. You can literally, it's like when you think about it like poker, it's like you can literally just throw in all your cards, and if you fail, well, you just got to get back up and you just got to do it again, because you don't have as much to lose, like you said, than when you have all the other assets and all that in your life. Well, even like I still feel like you don't have much to lose then, but it's a lot harder because you got to convince yourself that like, well, I can't look after my kids or something, like I got to risk it all. Like, no, you can't do it then. Like, now's your best time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.